بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. خلاصة تصريف الفعل المجرد الثلاثي. خلاصة summary تصريف conjugation الفعل المجرد الثلاثي, the basic triliteral فعل. So al-fi'l obviously means verb. Al-mujarrad means basic, meaning it's not advanced. The word mujarrad also means bare bones, stripped. Al-thulathi, tri-lettered. So we've studied al-madi, we've studied al-mudari. Katabtu means wrote I. Katabna means wrote we. Katabta means wrote you. Aktubu means I write. Naktubu we write. Taktubu you write as in anta. And so on and so forth. And so you already know all these conjugations, so I don't have to repeat the whole conjugations. But what's interesting in this review is the colors. If you look at the colors, the different colors we're using black for verb, red for fa'il or damirul fa'il, dual pronoun. We're using blue for hamzatul wasl, and we're also using blue for التاء or تاء التأنيث, the feminine ta. You know, katabat has feminine ta and katabata has feminine ta. And then we have the green alif, which is the silent alif. Katabu. Whenever the red waw is the last letter, you have to have the green alif. It's written but not pronounced, silent alif. And its purpose is to prevent possible misread. There are some rare situations in which the verb could be misread. To prevent those rare situations, they decided to standardize it and write the alif, the green alif, after the red vowel for all types of any verb, whether it's al-madi or al-mudari or al-amr, as long as red vowel is the last letter. So here's some reminders. يأتي الفاعل بعد الفعل. The fa'il comes after the fi'l. ويكون اسما ظاهرا, and it's ism ظاهر, a non-pronoun noun, or literally it means clear noun. أو ضميرا متصلا, or connected pronoun, as you can see in red. أو مستترا, or it's hidden. So if you don't see the red, the fa'il is hidden. So here, I don't see red in these three. أكتب نكتب تكتب. There's no red. That means the fa'il is hidden. And what would it be? It would be what's written here. So it would be ana for aktubu, nahnu or naktubu, and taktubu. It would be anta. The same thing here for uktub. The fa'il is anta. For uktubi, you can see the red. And the blue alif is hamzatul wasl, which is something you pronounce only if you begin with it. If you don't begin with it, you do not pronounce it. So for example, if I say to you, uktub washrab, write and read, write and drink. Okay, so I have this alif that I'm going to put in blue. Now, without this wow, let me put this on a separate page. So let's talk about Hamzatul Wasl, okay? Hamzatul Wasl is represented by the blue alif in the color-coded chart, okay? All of these blue alifs are Hamzatul Wasl. These are Hamzas that are used in the beginning of al-amr, command verb. But they're also used in the beginning of some nouns. There are 10 nouns which also begin with Hamzatul Wasl, and I'll talk about them in just a minute. Let's first understand Hamzatul Wasl through the perspective of Fi'lul Amr. Okay, fi'l al-amr. So what is this thing called Hamzatul Wasl? Why is it called Hamzatul Wasl when we don't even see a Hamza? In fact, what we see is an alif. So if you look at uktub and you look at ishrab, for example, and let's take another verb. Let's look at idrib. Okay. And we're only going to focus on anta, the fi'l amr for anta, because the others have the same idea as far as Hamzatul Wasl is concerned. Hamzatul Wasl is a Hamza that's not written, not pronounced, not heard unless you begin the word with it. So if the first thing I say in my sentence, if the first thing I say is uktub, then you can hear the word, you can hear the u sound. You can hear the u sound. Okay. If the first thing I say is ishrab, you can hear the e sound. E sound. Okay. If the first thing I say is idrib, you can hear the e beginning. So uktub, u, that's Hamza with a dhamma, but the Hamza is not written for a very good reason. That's because sometimes it's not pronounced. Okay. Um, that's why it's represented by a blue alif. So if I say uktub, you can hear the word u, you can hear the sound u in the beginning. But what if I have wow, which means and, in the beginning? If I say waktub, notice I did not say wa uktub, I said waktub, which means and write. And write. Okay. So once again, uktub means write, but waktub means and write. Okay. So when I say waktub, notice I did not pronounce the alif. It's as if I said like this, waktub. Okay. And that's because Hamzatul Wasl is only pronounced if it's in the beginning. Okay. So if Hamzatul Wasl is not in the beginning like uktub, then notice you can hear me say uktub. Okay. The same thing with ishrab. If I put a wow before ishrab, how do I say it? I say washrab, washrab. So let's say I want to tell someone uktub washrab. So how do I say that? I would say uktub washrab, write and drink. Uktub washrab. I do not say wa ishrab. That's wrong. It's wrong to say wa ishrab. Ishrab is wrong. Okay. The same thing with idrib. Okay, actually, let's put it back over here. If I put a wow before idrib, how do I say it? I say wadrib, wadrib, as if the alif is not even there. Wadrib. This is how it sounds like. Okay, but of course I have to write that alif, and I don't pronounce the kasra. So that's Hamzatul Wasl. Hamzatul Wasl is written as an alif, and it's only pronounced if you begin with it. If you don't begin with it, then you ignore it. And in this table, you notice how all of these commands, awamir, begin with u, u, u. That's because there's a dhamma in the middle root letter of the mudare. If the mudare has a dhamma on its middle root letter, then the fi'l amr will begin with dhamma. Now, if you look at some of the other examples we've looked at, let's go back here. Why does the word ishrab begin with kasra? Because the rule says that the fi'lul amr begins with a kasra. Just remember that as a normal, as a norm, as a default. the fi'l al-amr begins with a kasra. Just remember that. For basic triliterals, we're talking about form 1 basic triliteral, not form 2 or 3 or 4 or any of those forms. In form 1, the rule is that the fi'l al-amr begins with a kasra, unless there is a dhamma on the middle root letter of the mudari. If you look at the mudari here, the middle root letter has a dhamma. Uktub, naktubu, taktubu. So in all of these mudaris, the middle root letter ta has a dhamma. If that's the case, then you begin the amr with a dhamma. So that's the rule for Hamzat al-wasl for al-amr, the command verb. So coming back to the color codes, al-alif, al-zarqa, al-alif al-zarqa is Hamzat al-wasl. So this al-alif al-zarqa, the blue alif, is Hamzat al-wasl in this color-coded chart, okay? Other colors you already know, al-damir, al-akhdar, the green pronoun is damirun munfasil. Where are the green pronouns? Right here. All these green pronouns are munfasil. What is munfasil? Disconnected, standalone, separate pronouns. And the fa'il is never going to be one of these. Okay, the fa'il is never going to be standalone, visible pronoun. It could be hidden but not visible. If the fa'il is visible, it's never going to be one of these green pronouns. It's always going to be attached or separate clear nouns such as Zaidun or Fatima. We'll talk more about the fa'il later. In this lesson, the most important thing is that you understand how, whoops, there's a typo here. You understand how the verbs, basic triliteral verbs are conjugated. Okay, that's the most important thing. And you already know how to conjugate al-madi from previous lesson. You already know how to conjugate al-mudari from previous lesson. Now you have to know how to conjugate all of them, including al-amr. So that's what the main purpose of this lesson is, to show you everything in one page. And ad-damir thalathatu anwa. The pronoun is of 3 types: muttasil, connected; munfasil, disconnected or standalone, which is in green; and mustatir. Mustatir is hidden. And it's very important for you to memorize which pronouns are hidden. Once again, ana, nahnu, anta for mudari is hidden. And huwa hiya for both al-madi and mudari are hidden. Huwa hiya for both al-madi and al-mudari are hidden. And for amr, it's anta, because amr works just like mudari. If you look at mudari, you look at no red here, so no red here. You look at red here, the ya is red, the same ya is red. So the fa'il of al-amr looks just like the fa'il of its matching al-mudari. Al-ahmar, damir al-fa'il, no surprise there. At-ta'u zarqa, the blue ta is ta'u ta'nif. The blue ta here, you see this blue ta is ta'u ta'nif, and it only appears in al-madi twice. Once with katabat, once with katabata. So this ta, when it's attached to the fi'l, it's basically saying the fa'il is feminine. And that's called ta'u ta'nif, the feminine ta. Al-aswad, al-aswad is black, which is al-fi'l, and al-alif al-khadra, the green alif, where's the green alif? Is al-alif al-fariqa, which is right here, the silent alif. Remember the silent alif? It's this alif that we have been seeing in al-madi, and we see it in al-amr, and you can also see it in al-mudari given the right grammar. We'll see that more of that grammar stuff later on. So the green alif is the silent alif. And why do we have it? It's called al-alif al-fariqa, the alif, the separator, the differentiator, is to make sure that the verb is not misread. And there are minor, rare situations in which the verb could be misread. So they decided to standardize this alif for all verbs, al-madi, al-mudari, or al-amr, that have the red waw as the last letter. Whenever the red waw becomes the last letter, then you must have this al-alif al-fariqa, the green alif, the silent alif. Okay. So that's it. On the next page, you have a practice exercise in which you're expected to identify the fa'il for each one of these. So where's the fa'il for katabtu? That's two. Where's the fa'il for na, katabna? That's na, and so on and so forth. So you should already know this from your study of al-madi, al-mudari, and al-amr. So this is just a nice review. In one page, you'll be able to identify the fa'ils, the doers for all conjugations of al-madi and al-mudari and al-amr. You complete this and you check your answer using this table here, where you can see the fa'il in red. If the fa'il is hidden, if the doer is hidden, write it in parentheses always in this textbook. You must write it in parentheses, otherwise you may lose points on the test. And then more practice here for shariba, and then more practice here for qara, qara'tu, qara'na, and so on and so forth. And then some mixed review. You have katabtu, sharibna, tashrabu, mixed review. Katabtuma, naktubu, ishrabi, mixed review. So after this practice, after you go through, you know, kataba yaktubu uktub, and after you go through shariba yashrabu ishrab, and after you go through qara yaqra'u iqra, and then after that you go through a mixed review, you will become very good at identifying the fa'il, especially when it's dhamir muttasil, the red fa'il. After completing this lesson practice, please check your answers using the online answer key, and then take the quiz. There's a quiz for all three verb types. And inshallah, that will complete your basic understanding, basic skills for al-madi, al-mudari, al-amr when conjugated with connected pronouns. And of course, sometimes you don't see connected pronouns, that's when it's hidden. Then we will move on to a new set of lessons called al-abwab al-sitta, the six doors, which is a fascinating topic, inshallah. We'll talk about that.